Hey, beautiful stars. Today we are talking about how to use your voice and how to unlearn silence in business and what that really means. And joining us today is a repeat guest, Elaine Lin Hering, who is a speaker, facilitator, and former lecturer on law at Harvard Law School. Elaine works with organizations and individuals to build skills in communications, collaboration, and conflict management. She's worked on 6 continents and facilitated executive education at Harvard, Dartmouth, Tufts, UC Berkeley, and UCLA. She has served as the advanced training director for the Harvard Mediation Program and a managing partner for a global leadership development firm. Elaine was named a Thinkers 50 Global Management Thinker to Watch and the author of the USA Today best-selling book, which I have in front of me and which we talked about last time, which is called, such an important book, Elaine, Unlearning Silence: How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash Talent, and Live More Fully. Welcome to Her Starring Role.
Thank you. So honored to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So this is the first recording I'm doing with the new name, the new
I feel like I have
rebrand.
stars
You
around
have
me as a
stars. We
result.
are. You know what? We're taking our light, our individual lights, and we're combining them for the greater good of all women and around
Yeah.
this really important conversation around unlearning silence. And we may have talked about it before, but just in case somebody hasn't heard or doesn't have time to go back, let's just say, tell us in your words, what does it mean to unlearn silence?
Yeah, let's define silence first, because
Let's
often we
define
think of
silence.
silence as the meditative pause that we're like seeking on our yoga mats. And I'd argue that silence is the withholding of thoughts, ideas, and self for
Mm,
the comfort or convenience of others.
deep. Yes.
And how often do we do that unconsciously, habitually, because we've been acculturated or conditioned to think about everyone else but ourselves? It's not my starring role, right? I am here as a woman to support someone else, to make someone else shine, whether it's my kids or my spouse or my team. And so if I really want to be in my own starring role, well, I need to know who I am. I need to be okay with who I am, to fully embody that I have needs, goals, hopes, and concerns of my own. And to the extent I've learned to edit or censor myself, right, withhold parts of myself for the
Yes.
comfort and convenience of others, I need to unlearn that, because trying to have more confidence, trying to show up more, trying to be more present isn't going to work if that underlying habit is still there. We're not building on a firm foundation. So it is excavating what habits have we developed over time that actually undermine our ability to show up and live well and lead powerfully.
It's so beautiful. You just came up with that so effortlessly. I'm so impressed. No wonder Harvard law professor here.
Well, it also
Right.
helps when you believe in it and when you've
Oh,
lived
I
it,
love that you said that. Yes, and what you're saying
right?
is resonating and it's speaking to the mission of where I'm taking this show and this idea that we are congratulated, we are celebrated, we are praised for our sacrifice. And when a woman shines too bright, oftentimes she's torn down and she's judged and she's, backstabbed, and the opposite happens. And we need to change that. And go ahead, please.
And it's not just us, let's be clear,
Yes, yes,
right? We have those habits that become normal. If a
yes,
woman shines too bright, queen bee syndrome, where we do it to each other, is real. And then we internalize the cost and think, well, I did something wrong. And we're repeatedly told, well, you just need more courage or need more confidence. And that's a misdiagnosis of the whole situation, because it is both my own withholding and the way that other people treat me or interact with me makes me feel like withholding is the silencing myself is the only option.
yeah,
So that's really the unlearning of how do we do it to ourselves? How do we do it to each other?
yes.
And seeing it accurately so we can actually move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And specifically today, we want to kind of talk about the business side because in my newsletter and when I made the announcement with the new name,
Mm,
I said, we do sideline ourselves. And sometimes it's by choice, becoming a mother and saying, you know what? I've done maybe the corporate thing. I'm going to shine all my energy and light on my baby and my
Yeah.
children. And I'm going to take a back seat because I've done some things, but I'm going to kind of be on the sidelines cheering along. And all of that is beautiful and fine. The reframe that I want to focus on is this idea that there's actually a different way. You don't have to be exclusively on the sideline. And as it comes to, we talked about what we're doing to ourselves and maybe how it relates, like on a personal level. Professionally, we have been sidelined. To 2026, women make 83 cents on the dollar to a man. So,
Mhm.
right? So,
Or white
why?
women do.
Oh, right. And then women of color, do you know what the number is for women of color?
It depends, right? It gets progressively worse,
And
is
it
the
gets
short of it.
progressively worse. So, enough. So
Hmm.
the more that we're in conversation around what's not working for us women and
Yeah.
how the conditioning and the society and the patriarchal systems have created this narrative, this expectation, this sense of how we're supposed to show up to be acceptable, liked, approved of, whatever, patted on the back, needs to shift. And the only way it's going to do that is through conversation, through awareness, and then through having the the safety and the courage to know when and how to speak, which is really the beauty of your book.
I'd
Be-
also add to
yes,
that
please.
the courage to choose,
Yes, go ahead,
to not
please.
forget that we have choices.
Yes.
Because if you want to choose to not be part of the rat race and to focus your energy elsewhere, fantastic. But those are choices you are making rather than the ones that it feels like you're forced to choose.
Yes.
And let's also acknowledge that the systems are broken. These workplaces that we've been in were built for men, were built for households where you had a spouse, you had a wife at home, taking care of everything, making everything happen. So it didn't matter whether you're going to go to the late night networking thing. You had coverage. You're not juggling in this way. And so there's also a question for each of us. Do we want to choose to try to fix the systems from within? Because plenty of us have been saying this isn't working.
Yes.
Baseline, we need some parental leave. Baseline, we need some flexibility. And companies continue to choose, I would argue, profit over people. And so we have the choice of, do I want to continue within this system? Which, if you're choosing it, fantastic. We need good people within organizations continuing to have these conversations, as you say. And I also don't want any woman to blame themselves for making a different choice.
100%. And we do choose sometimes. Like I chose to prioritize my daughter. That was a
Yeah.
choice.
Yes.
But when you're not choosing it and you're doing it by default because you don't know that there's other options or you don't know how to keep including yourself or at least
Mhm.
maintaining your health and your
Mhm.
sense of self-care and self-worth and like the things that make you feel full, like in other ways, like it's not necessarily even just about career ambitions or purpose. It's so much more than
Yeah.
all of that. Um, okay. So I might not cut all of this out. So Elaine, so funny because last time we spoke, I think something happened. We were talking about voice.
Yeah.
Did something happen with the mics?
Maybe. I was like, there was something.
There was something that was almost like a metaphor for what we were talking about. And today we're talking about bringing your full light
Oh.
forward. And my
Mm.
ring light just went out.
Uh-huh. Do you want to unpack that one or do you want me to?
Go for it. Because I just saw something you just like exhaled. You just exhaled. This is so
Oh,
curious because there was something last time. I'm going to have to go back and listen. But the fact
yeah.
that the light just went out as we're talking about the importance of shining our light and reclaiming that and having agency over that.
Well, and I think there's something to be said for if other, where does the light come from? Does the light come from within or does it come from external validation? Does the light come from someone else or a light outside shining it on you that gives you credence, gives you confidence, gives you
So
value, gives you
good.
purpose? Or is it
Yes.
from within? Because we can feel so very different based on context. And I say that as someone, I was managing partner of a global leadership development firm. I had made it. And also when I refused to conform to the practices and policies they were trying to implement that I found inequitable. Then I had that title, that position stripped away from me overnight. I became a
Oh.
solopreneur overnight. So this is also my when I say choose, it is so deeply personal because if you're not choosing for yourself, someone else is going to choose for you. I'd argue there actually isn't job security right now in large organizations. One reorg, right? One AI, we need to optimize, we need more profit for shareholders, and you're actually gone. So hopefully you've also planned for that and your value and your worth and your light come from within because you're making choices day in and day out that you stand by. So whatever happens, you say, I am living a good life, right? And we, particularly women, we will figure it out. We know that. But how often do we have that spidey sense? I probably knew 3 years before the parting that my time was
Yes.
up. And I
Yes.
talked myself out of it, right? It's
Yes.
good. Just try it. They're saying all the right things. You need to trust, be the bigger person. Oh, maybe things are shifting. Wait your turn. Be patient, be kind, be the bigger person. I'm not choosing in that,
No.
right? And so my encouragement is for each of us to actually listen and to cultivate the quiet voice within ourselves because we know. We know when something's right. We know when something's wrong. We know when something's off. By the way, it doesn't mean you need to quit today, but
Exactly.
it does
Yep.
mean choose.
Yes.
Choose the next step to know who you are, who you want to be, how you want to spend this life that you have, because you're worth it and because it's your life.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's literally, this is so resonant with what I was just saying when I announced the new name. It's like,
Mhm.
we are here for a finite amount of time. Make it yours.
Yeah.
Make it yours as much as you can. Like, at least stay true to that inner knowing, that inner voice. And like you said, I think we've all been in jobs where maybe our hearts were breaking a little bit. Like, we're like, oh, this isn't feeling good. And I
Mhm.
really just wanted to feel good. Or maybe you loved it and you just don't anymore. And that's
Yeah.
like you have to reconcile with what's true and what
Yes.
is. And so that
Yes.
can be a process. It might not just be like, okay, I'm aware. I hate this now. Like, I dread Monday morning. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to give my notice. It is a process.
I also love that you said you may have loved it and maybe now you don't. And
Yes.
that space, like roles have an arc to them. Roles evolve, right? They're in that storyline, there is evolution. That's why there's tension and release and joy and heights. And do we allow ourselves to also evolve in maybe it was what we wanted and we got there and realized, oh, this is not, this is not what I thought it was. Or maybe it was great for a season, but is no longer great for this season. I
Yes.
mean, that change, that evolution is actually just learning and growth, right? And so many of us say we care about learning and growth. Do we allow ourselves to evolve, to learn and grow? Do we allow that for ourselves as well?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just leadership
Mm.
changes, right? Because I think we've all experienced that where we did love it, or maybe there was a merger and now
Yes.
there's a new culture shift happening that doesn't resonate, does not feel good.
Yep.
And so there's that balancing act as well.
Yeah. It's taking real-time data
Yes.
and making choices as a result of it, rather than discounting or brushing away what is before you, what you notice, right? It is a way to actually honor the senses that you have, which
Yes.
is what do I notice? What do I feel? What am I experiencing? And have that actually count as well.
Yeah. As the actual foundation. Yes.
Mhm.
Start with you.
Start with you and don't discount your own perception,
Yes.
right? I think there can be so much self-talk of, okay, it's a merger, there's new leadership. Well, maybe there's some survivor's guilt because other people got let go and you're there. You're one of the chosen ones. Or I can tough it out. I'm strong. I'm so tired of being strong. So
Yes.
tired of muscling through. I don't think you just have to make it work, right? There is how do I choose day in and day out where I'm going to spend my time, energy, and effort? Because the combination of all of those choices at the end of the day is my life. And so maybe I am still choosing to show up and be present for my team. And maybe I'm also exploring and doing some research on what it means to be a fractional something, right? What are the other options out there? Because we can so often um, focus on the fear of the unknown. And so there's just a familiarity of what we know. It's not necessarily better, it's just more familiar. And what is familiar does not make it good or right or best. It
Yes.
just makes it more comfortable.
Yes.
And
Or uncomfortable.
yeah,
Right? It's familiar, but
but
maybe
it's a
doesn't.
known discomfort rather than
Right.
the fear of the unknown.
100%. I often equate work environments to relationships.
Mm,
Tell me if this resonates, where
already.
you're like, I love this job. I feel so myself. I'm making an
Mm,
impact. Like it just feels so good. I love walking in
yeah,
every day. And then something does shift. New
yeah.
management, the merger, you outgrow the position, you're now bored, whatever. You're like, oh, and you're like, I just want to feel that love again.
Mm,
And you don't, and it's
mm,
painful. Can we
mm,
talk about this? Because did you walk? Is this what you walked with? Or tell maybe if your story relates in
mm,
in this scenario, feel free
mm.
to share. But just you're nodding, so yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you said work like relationships, it made me think of sunk costs. I have invested in
Oh,
this
interesting.
relationship.
That side. Yes, not I
That
want it
side
back, but
of
right.
it.
It's like I've invested the time.
I've invested the time. There's always startup costs with any situation.
This is good.
So it's I know the devil I know rather than the devil I don't know, especially if I
Yes.
know that there's no perfect setup. I will say my own story is, I felt like when I joined that organization, I felt like I had won the golden ticket.
Mm,
Everyone said you need 10 years of experience, a head of gray hair, and preferably a white male, be a white male. And I was like, well, I don't, some of that I can work on, some of that I can't, to be in this world of leadership development. And so I drank the Kool-Aid really hard.
mm.
And it was I'm living the dream. And then there was I'm noticing some things. There were changes in leadership. There were changes in priorities. There was a gap between what was said and what was done. And how much am I going to pay attention to that versus gloss over it and accept it and brush it away? And I think this is where I just want to go back to loving it. If other people aren't willing to also change or meet you where you're at, to be loved means that your needs, goals, hopes, and concerns, or in classic negotiation speak, your interests, are sufficiently met. And if they're not, and you've asked for them to be met, I think in a loving relationship, hopefully the other people parties are also trying to love you. It's not unidirectional giving.
Yes.
If they're not willing to reciprocate, how long do you pound your head against that brick wall?
Yeah.
And then the wiser, actually more loving thing for yourself, the honoring thing for yourself is, okay, I've given it a good faith effort to try to change things. I've had all the conversations. I remember my husband saying to me, is there anything that you haven't already said?
Mm.
And I was like, no. So does it make sense to try to go another round when you've already
You tried.
tried it all?
That is
In
like a
good faith, tried it
relationship.
all. It's
Yeah.
like a relationship. And
Yeah.
and and
You're like,
then
I
there's the
want to make
breakup.
this work. I want to make it work.
You do because you care. And they're real
Yes.
relationships, right? You work with
Yes.
these people. There are friendships that I know when you gave birth to your child and I celebrated that milestone with you, and all of that can go away overnight. Now
Yes.
it can go away overnight with you choosing that, or it can go away overnight being chosen for you
Mm.
as well. A big piece of that is, even in a relationship, am I loving myself? Am I caring for myself? Are my needs, goals, hopes, concerns sufficiently met? Because if they're not, I'm on a fast track to burnout,
Mm.
right? And I'm a shell of who I could be. And
It's
I'm actually
it's
no good to anyone, my kids, my spouse, my community, my team. And so, how do I honor what is true of me?
I love it. It's so funny that you're saying all that burnt out, like the light from that was cast, and we're saying it's an inside job. So maybe let's get a little tactical because I think sometimes when women listen, they're like, yes, this is resonating. I've been there. I know what they're talking about. I have golden handcuffs, or two more years and I'll get whatever the extra bump in maybe a
Yes.
pension. Who knows? There's always, there might be financial consideration. So how does somebody take what's true and sort of honor that inner knowing
Mm,
in their light
hmm
and then take steps to get realigned into something that actually does feel fulfilling and good that honors what you know to be true? What
mm.
does that look like in a practical sense?
Yeah, I think in a very practical sense, there is internal work to remember that you are an individual. You are a stakeholder as well, right? We tend to solve for and be rewarded for solving for everybody else's needs. What about your own? So to me, step one is awareness. What do I need? I'm looking at work, at home, in this life I've constructed. What do I need? And then second step after that awareness is how do I start to meet more of those needs? Right? It is very, to me, very basic. We're not talking about big shifts. We're not talking about submitting 2 weeks notice. We're talking about paying attention to what I need.
Yeah.
And the current role that you're in, maybe it does sufficiently meet your needs, like the financial pressures. And if you can see how 1 + 1 = 2 or how those things connect, it actually anchors you to the purpose and it allows you to weather some of the other side effects, maybe, of the
Yes.
situation, right? That
Yes.
clarity of I'm here because I'm paying for college, I'm here because I'm paying the mortgage, I'm here because my family needs to stay here because we've still got 2 years before my kid's out of high school, whatever it is. That clarity means that you know why you're putting up with the other stuff and you know why you're choosing it. So I'd start with what do I need, cultivating that awareness, and then doing the check of how are they met or how could I meet them? And if intellectual curiosity or relational connection is one of those needs and it's not being met at work, well, how else could I meet that? Right? You
Mm.
start to put together the pieces. But I'd argue it all starts with what do I need
What do I
in
need?
order to continue showing up and being sufficiently whole?
Absolutely. I know for me, when the founder of the company that I was working for passed away unexpectedly, he was my boss and mentor.
Mm,
My job, which I had complete autonomy over, my team, my department, everything
yeah.
shifted, and everyone, there were people who now are going to be managing and more significantly micromanaging my role that I had
Hmm.
essentially developed and built from nothing. And I was like, oh, this is not fun anymore because
Mm,
I'm not allowed to, like, contracts that I had created. It was like somebody had to go approve them now before
hmm.
I could sign them. I'm like, I made this. This is like, was like contracts to sponsor events and do other
Yeah.
things. And like, these have been vetted. Like, these are, don't waste your time. Like, this is getting
Yeah.
petty. Anyway, for me to decide to leave. I knew at some point I was like, this isn't fun anymore. I don't feel as lit up. I don't feel that I have the capability to bring my best.
Mm-hmm.
But I stayed, and in my mind, I said, I'm going to stay at least a year out of
Hmm.
loyalty, even though the founder had passed, out of
Yeah.
loyalty for giving me this opportunity because I was really young when I got the
Yeah.
job. And because I loved the people and the place.
Yeah.
And two, I wanted to hit a financial goal.
Yeah.
I said, when I hit this number in my savings account,
Yes.
it will align with having stayed, or maybe I'll hit the
Yes.
number first. But either way, I'm going to hit both things and then I'll go. And that's what I did. And I was able to leave with a sense of peace and integrity because core
Yes.
values. But
Yes.
I also learned an important lesson. A lot of people were making deals for themselves. They weren't thinking about
Mhm.
the company as a whole. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, actually, there was a different way I could have been thinking about this because
Yeah.
your loyalty isn't necessarily appreciated or valued, I realized. And that was a painful lesson. I'm not saying necessarily in my case, but I was like, oh, I could have actually jumped to a competing firm that
Yeah.
offered me the comparable role when it
Yeah.
happened. They're like, we know you, we want you. And I said,
Hmm.
no, I'm loyal. Other
Hmm.
people weren't. And so it's a weird place
Yes.
to be in. You're shaking your head. Just
I'm so with you. And I don't think there's like a morally right or wrong answer here.
yeah, I
There's
agree.
which one are you going to choose?
And I did
How
what resonated with my values. I couldn't have done it a different way. And I'm not judging the people for doing it their way. There was a reason they did
exactly,
it their way. We all had agency over our choice. It was a choice.
exactly.
Choosing.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice to lead your way, to live your way, and you had clarity on, yep, this is what I want to do to honor different things. Great. No one, I think, would have blamed you for choosing differently, but I think that's the key, which is to do it your way. I also
Mm.
want to say it's incredibly difficult when you are already overextended and juggling the second, third, fourth shift on top of everything to even have the space to consider what do I do, right? What steps do I take? And that's why I start with the just awareness of what do I need. And maybe what you need right now is a nap.
A nap. Is that what you said? Oh, that's so
Yes.
funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Maybe
Yeah,
you need a deep
maybe.
breath. Like it is that
A little
basic to
self-care.
start.
Maybe book a massage. Who knows?
Who knows? And that's going to be different for
For
everyone,
everyone. Yeah.
right? But the each step gets you to a different vantage point.
Yeah.
When you've had more sleep under your belt, when your body is not as tight, you will see a different option set. So we can be such visionaries and strategic planners, and we need to plan for the next 6 months for everyone in our lives. I think that's an important skill set. There is also just how do I take the next step, a next step,
Yes.
because each step will reveal something. I get new data.
Absolutely. And just giving yourself permission, like you can't do it wrong. You're just going to do it as best you can with whatever
Yes,
you're being dealt. And you'll
yes,
learn. And maybe you do
yes.
it a different way, a different way the next time, if there is that next time.
Yep.
Elaine, I'm really curious because I know you do go into companies and this show is for women. So I wonder, talk to us about like what you see happening to women. Let's say I always think of like the meeting room when
Mm,
ideas are being shared and you want to get your voice out, whether somebody's speaking over you,
mhm,
or I think a lot of women probably can relate to you put an idea out and then somebody jumps in and suddenly it's their idea and everyone's like, that's a great idea, Jim. And you're like, whoa, I literally just said that, literally just
mhm,
said it. How did that? So, like, how do you use your voice
mhm,
and be heard
mhm.
and navigate some of these workplace things and feel free to add like other things you see. I'm thinking right now like in a group meeting situation
Yeah. I mean, there's so
because
many
it's so
layers to that.
classic, of course, and it's yeah, you can't
So
cover all of it,
it's so classic. In
but it's
chapter 4 of my
classic.
book, I
Yes.
talk about different ways that we silence ourselves. One of the most classic ways we silence ourselves is that we are less direct than we think we are. So
Mm,
I'm thinking, Jim, that's a horrible idea. But what I say is, do you really think that's a good idea? Or I just say, because we're perceptive, right? We pick up on hints. So if someone said, to me, I'd say, Michelle, say more. But that's not how everybody operates. So this is what linguists have termed mitigated speech, and it is one of the ways that we end up not being as clear as we think we are. So we
mm,
think we've said that idea, but really I've just said, when they've said this is a horrible idea, right? There's a really big difference in terms of clarity, even if we're
yes.
thinking the same thing in our heads. By the way, it's not to say go around and be super direct all the time. Women also get penalized in a different way, right?
Yes.
And
For
so
being what?
lower,
Assertive. Yep.
yep, for being assertive, but and lower power language, like less direct language, can be really strategic in that way. To me, it comes back down to choice and
Okay.
also choice with range. So if isn't getting heard, right? This is what can I control? I can control the outputs. I can control what I'm actually saying. So if that's not, they're not picking up on the hint, how do I be a little bit more clear or a little bit more direct? Which could be, I think we should revisit this issue.
Mm,
Or it could be from where I sit, that's not going to work. Now, I've done two things there. One is I've said it's not going to work, but I've also couched it in from where I sit. From where I sit in sales, Not going to work. Maybe it looks different in engineering, right? I'm not precluding the fact that it might make sense from where you sit, but I'm fully owning what I see rather than feeling like I have to dampen it. So there is, how can I exercise that range to be more clear? Because
Yes.
people can only hear what we actually say, they can't read what we're thinking.
Right.
And then there is, let me own my vantage point from where I sit, which naturally begs the question, what does it look like from where you sit? Then there is the other people talking over us,
Yes.
which hopefully you've got some allies in the room who are also going to intervene on your behalf, but so often they don't notice it. There's two different layers to this. One is cultural expectations of how finely do we overlap in terms of cadences. And again, linguists have mapped this over time. There are some cultures, maybe some family dinner tables, where you just talk over each other. And if you
Yeah.
didn't grow up with that,
Yeah.
it's like wait your turn. It's really hard to get a word in edgewise.
Yes.
Do you want to go to some different meeting norms and some ground rules? Maybe, but if you're the only woman and you're trying to implement that, that's just hard. So there can just be the intervention of let me finish, right? Or as I was saying earlier, and then finish your thought. Um, there's also the attribution to try to get credit for your idea, right? Which is to say, hey, Jim, I'm so glad you agree with what I raised earlier to try to bring it back. I'll also say that that dance can be really exhausting.
As you're saying it, I'm like, that's such a bummer you'd have to even say it, but sometimes you do, and then you feel badly saying that because then it looks like, oh, you're like, make sure you knew it was me, but it was you.
And
You
this
said
to
it, you
me,
originated it. So,
yes,
yes, there should be value in that because
yes,
otherwise you may stop offering those
yes.
ideas and suggestions that would benefit the company.
Well, we also know that the system works where getting credit matters,
And it
right? Getting
matters.
credit matters for promotion and for pay. Now, we also run into the fact that women tend to be promoted based on performance, judged on performance, and men are promoted and judged on potential, right? So they're all these
Other
layers,
ways we're sidelined in the
which is
workplace.
which is why I go back to choice,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're thinking, I just don't have it in me to deal with this BS today. So fine, like talk over me, we'll move on.
Yeah.
I'll clean it up on the back end.
Yeah.
Or you have it in you today and you say, let me finish.
Yeah.
Or you choose to talk over them. Right? There are all these choices that we have. And the point of remembering that you have choice is to own your agency. Otherwise, we feel powerless in the dynamic when let me choose how I want to show up. Let me choose which battles I want to fight in that whole mix of things. And there are different things we can do, like own from where I sit, like modulate in terms of directness, like talk to people and afterwards to debrief to say, hey, that that meeting went downhill, right? How I'm wondering how we could make this more productive next time. That's a question. Or I wonder if this group would benefit from a facilitator. Or I wonder if actually having a bunch of one-on-one conversations is going to be more productive than everyone getting in a room without structure, right? Lots of different ways that you can get at figuring out how to get your voice heard.
Yes.
They're all process choices, right? It's the how of how we're talking about things rather than words themselves. So
Yes.
one of the misconceptions about voice is that it's just, did I say it in that moment? So in the book, I talk about three levers for voice: substance, relationship, and process. Substance is the what? What's the timeline? What's the budget? Relationship is how people are feeling. And process is how are we talking about this? Because there's also the difference of are we real-time processors or are we post-processors? Meaning real-time processors, the more we talk it through in the moment, the more clear it gets. Post-processors are you're sitting in a meeting, everyone's annoyed, it's running over time, it's not coordinated, you can't quite figure out what you want to say. 20 minutes after the meeting, you're like, that's what I wanted to say. Do you bring that back into the conversation? Is there a way that asynchronous communication or typing is just as valid a way to share your thoughts, insights, and
Yes.
expertise as talking in the moment? So it's not just this cat fight for airtime. All of those are different levers for actually getting heard. But it's also anchoring back to what's the point here?
Right.
right? Because is the point here to get credit? Is the point here to solve the problem? Is how do we do that best and most effectively? And to remember that if what the default is, which is everybody get in a Zoom room and hash it out with no agenda and everyone thinks it's a waste of time, that's just maybe the default in many organizations. It does not have to be the way forward. And so,
Yes.
how might we redesign? How might we choose how we work or experiment with how we work? And playing with that lever rather than fighting for airtime in the moment, again, is another option.
Yeah. Is there a way that how you said how you say the thing or how you, but is there a way like through the how you're using your actual voice, how you're
Mhm.
sitting, like is are there other like strategies around being taken seriously? Because you hear some people say, I talk and I feel like everyone zones out and other people command the room. What's the difference between those two people?
You maybe see my body language like shrivel
Yeah, I
around
did.
this
Yes.
because I hate women, if you just smiled more.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not
If
saying
you
that.
could,
I'm
you're,
saying
it,
I want her heard. So, is there something she can do? She doesn't need to smile. I don't care. Like,
I don't
she can
know.
like pound her fist as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't care about that. But I'm just
Sure,
curious. I'm just curious because you see it. You
you
see
do
it.
see it. You do see it, and
And that person who might have so much value, whose ideas get taken,
Mhm.
it's not blame on her, but the question is, how can we empower her? How does she reclaim that?
Yeah, I think she does what she can, right? Which is, am I as clear as I think I am? Am I making choices of when I want to interject? Am I using names as needed, right? Am I doing power poses in the bathroom stall before the meeting, Amy Cuddy style? There's
Yes.
all these things that
Yeah.
you can try. And I want
Yes.
to honor her and say, you don't need to be louder. You don't need to smile more. You don't need to physically take up more space. I want you to be okay just as you are because the packaging doesn't change the value of who you are. Where I would press in that dynamic is, can other people see the value? And again, my call to action is for the leaders around you to say, hey, Michele, what's running through your mind? And to use their social capital to give you the floor, right? Or to say, I've asked Michele today to talk us through this because she's closest to the data and the most nuanced take on this issue that I've heard so far.
Yeah.
Right, there's so much that we're up against that actually has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm so sick of us being told to fix ourselves in different ways.
Yes.
If you only used this phrase, if
Mm.
you only stood up straighter,
Shaming.
right?
Now I'm exhaling 'cause it's so because here's the thing. It's you see it. You've maybe lived it.
Yeah.
It's a tough dance because, like you said, women are judged on their performance versus their potential. And if your ideas, Jim keeps claiming your ideas, and he's getting the promotions, or you lead a project, and he swoops in, or she swoops, somebody else does. It doesn't mean it's a guy.
Hmm.
Jane swoops in because she has more social capital.
Hmm.
People are going to believe Jane over you, even though you've got the receipts.
Yes.
And you're just,
And is that about you or is that about the system?
it's about the
And
system. The system's broken.
that to me is then, how do we choose our relationship with the system? Because we can turn ourselves inside out trying to contort ourselves to succeed more in this system. And we may. But it is also just as valid to say, right, like, is my move now to go golf with Jim or with Jane or with Jane or Jim's dad? That's not how I want to choose my life, but maybe it is someone else's choice to do that. To me, the key idea here is, can we see the situation clearly that typically it's not because you're broken or flawed, right? The system rewards different things. How much do you want to play to the system?
This is so good, Elaine.
I
It's
wish I had a
so
more
good.
satisfying
No,
answer.
it's
It's the
so
most honest.
real. It's so real because what we keep coming back to is agency. It's your inner light. It's what do you want to tolerate? If this system doesn't work for you,
Yeah.
either you join another system that does, or you start your own thing that honors your gifts and your talents. And
Yes.
right, it's what you
Yes.
did. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to do it my way. I'm going to go fix some of the things that are broken and use my voice in a way that helps others relate better, right?
Yes, your version makes it sound more cinematic. Right, my version, and I want to be transparent about this for anyone listening who's in the really messy,
Because
ugly middle.
it gets messy. It is a
It gets
relationship.
messy.
It is.
It took me a year and a half with my therapist to shift from I was forced out. I was forced out of the organization I helped build.
Okay, that hurts me to hear this. Do you see?
Yes,
This is what I'm saying. That's so
yes.
painful.
Where I got to as
Yes.
a matter of agency is I wasn't forced out because that's other people doing it to me.
Yes.
I chose not to put up with inequity.
Yes. You
And
spoke
I
your truth. You didn't bend
chose,
anymore to this, what the norm was within this
and it's
organization.
costly,
Yeah.
right?
There's a
Other
price. There's a
people
price.
make it really costly for us to live and lead out of integrity.
Mm.
And that's on them, not on us. And then there's a question of what do we continue to choose? So, this is why, to me, unlearning silence is in what ways am I silencing myself, not listening to that quiet voice, not paying attention to my own needs? In what ways are other people silencing me, right? Not paying attention to what I'm saying, not giving value, not recognizing the light I bring, and instead characterizing my light as, I don't know, annoyance or something that slows down the machine.
Something that needs to go.
And in what ways is silence baked into the systems we're all part of?
Yeah.
And then seeing that accurately, I can decide where do I put my gifts, my energy? Because I could put it trying to unlearn my own silence, do what I can, and then use my voice accordingly. I could put it at trying to change Jane and Jim if I wanted to. I think this can be valid places to put your time and energy if you want. I then, in recognizing I have agency, can work on and tackle some of the policies that silence us all, NDAs, for example, right? Or what lack of childcare, lack of family leave. But where we get stuck is if we continue to buy into the fallacy that it's if I just speak up more, better, clearer, louder, I would be heard.
Mm.
Instead, it's okay, where is silence showing up? Where do I want to tackle it and unlearn it? I typically advise people, and when I work with leaders, it start with yourself. Because if you remember that you have power and influence, you can activate that, right? We're
Yeah.
so often looking at the power we don't have, and we forget the power we do have. The power to choose whether I'm going to let Jim get under my skin, or whether I'm just going to move on because I'm going for my financial goal in a year, right? Or whatever way I want to live. Um, I will say, having been on the opposite side of it, right? I'm 3 years, 3.5 years out, maybe. I've
Yes.
lost track, which is actually great.
That's awesome. Yes.
Is there is such a world of possibility outside of what we are familiar with. And even getting yourself the space to think, how do I want to do it? What is my way? Because if you're within a pre-existing system, which we're all part of, right? A
Yes.
country, a society, a way of organizing the world,
Yes.
there are norms, there are things baked into it. And if we're not thinking, what is my way? We very naturally just absorb and, toe the company line because that's what we're paid for. It does take intentionality. It takes so much more effort to be aware of what is my way than it is to just follow what your manager, your leader would want you to do or you think they want you to do.
Yes.
I'd argue that it is incredibly fulfilling to be able to say, I stand by the choices I make. I can defend them to myself. I can defend them to my kid. And I am building a world that I want with the values that I care about. Maybe integrity isn't what makes the headlines. Maybe integrity isn't what makes me $1 billion, but I sleep pretty well at night and I'm doing my part to shape the world.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And how did it impact your health?
Mm. I don't remember if I shared this last time, but our bodies know.
Yes.
And so prior to the parting, my hair was falling out. I was breaking out in hives from stress, wasn't sleeping, and that went away,
Yes.
right? That,
Yes.
and it really was are we going to take the time to rest now? Or are we going to be forced to rest because our bodies give out on this? Deepa Purushothaman has shared very candidly about this online and encouraged folks to look into her journey. She was the youngest partner at one of the big consulting firms, going to the doctor's office with her suitcase, her carry-on, because she just come from the airport. I mean, I still at sometimes feel like I pull heroics because I'm the primary parent. And so I take the last flight out and the first flight back, and I've planned dinner and I've figured out carpool. But it's also each trip is calculated. And each trip is in alignment with work I want to do that shapes the world, right? I have the great gift of helping people learn how to communicate more effectively and solve the question, why don't we talk to each other? What gets in the way? Because we
Yes.
can't work. Like work doesn't work if we're not communicating with one another.
Right. And actually hearing each other.
And actually hearing one another and not
Yes.
unintentionally silencing each other. Because I've actually never met a leader who said, I want to make my team's life more difficult.
Right.
But
Right.
I've
Right.
met plenty of team members who are like, my leader makes my life more difficult.
Yes.
And silence is part of that factor. So every trip is, how do I invest in this team of leaders or in um, this staff so that they can continue to do good work? And then I come home, right? And there's so many layers to it, conversations with our kids about, I mean, the last trip I took last week, my kid was like, Mom, these 3 days are going to be the worst 3 days of my life because you're not home.
Oh, baby.
I know. And I'm like, oh, oh,
You're like, oh man. All right. You're like, I'll cancel, but you can't.
I
I know.
can't.
I
And it's
know.
important. If I think about the world I want to build, it is one
Yes.
in which, whatever your gender, you get to do good work in this world that honors the gifts, skills, and talents that you've been given.
Oh,
And so we're going to have different adventures, bud. And then we're going to come home and swap stories.
and so sweet. It's so sweet. He loves you so much.
Well, and then he sort of, I don't think he's trying to guilt trip me, but
No,
he's like,
he's not. He genuinely meant it because he
I
loves
know.
you.
The only reason I let you go is because I know you're doing good work in the world.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. And so he knows because you've had these conversations.
I mean, we keep having the
How old is
conversation.
he? Do you mind me
He's
asking?
8.
That is so cute.
It's very cute. We're going to work next on the part of him letting me go.
Well, enjoy it because when they're
Yes,
teenagers and
I
older, they're
know.
like,
I know.
bye.
I
You
know.
don't see them as much, and you're like,
But
oh, I miss you now.
each season is different,
It
right?
is a
That goes
different
back to the
season.
learning and growth and evolution of what works for you and your family or the people you care about in this season and
Yes,
what might be different in the next season.
yes, yes. And it is about choice. I wanted to ask about health only because
Mm.
I imagined, and I wanted to hear from you, when you have that stress, it literally eats at you. And if you are somebody who has a core value of integrity and you can't show up with the integrity or you're trying to and you're being punished for it,
Yeah.
that also eats at you and it's
Yes.
exhausting and it's draining. So I imagined like a weight come off, even though there, I would imagine also disappointment, sadness, confusion, like, wait, I've worked so hard. Like you spent your whole life, like you said, we talked last time, checking these boxes, Harvard Law School, all of it. And then what? Like that's a
Mhm.
lot. So I thought, and I think I want the women to take that away too, because when we are compromising our truth and we are silencing ourselves when we don't want to be silenced and we don't feel like we have the agency and we are self-editing and we're not fully showing up and whoever we're with we're trying to adapt to what we think is acceptable, that harms us.
I'm already exhausted just from listening you list all of
I
that
know, I'm
out.
exhausted too. I'm like, I think I'm
So,
going to stop listing things because I feel like I could go on. I'm
but it's all
exhausted
true.
saying it, Elaine.
It's all true. And it's all, I mean, this is why we're talking about it, right? This is why we are exhausted. This
Yes.
is why the research is also clear that self-silencing increases the likelihood of of premature death.
Say more.
Every time that we are not honoring the needs, what our bodies are telling us, we reduce our ability to recover physically. There's a great Time magazine article, I believe it is Mayal et al., titled um, Silence is Killing Women.
Oh,
Maybe I'll
I'm
send
gonna
it to
try
you
to
and we can
link
link it in
that.
the show
We
notes.
should. I like that. Yeah, let's. I
Um,
mean, I don't like the title,
no,
but I
but
like to list the resource. Is what I meant.
it's real. It's not just made up in our heads.
Wow.
It is not just because it's not because we're weak. I mean, I think we're all doing more than is probably humanly possible. Whether we were sold this idea that we could do it all, I don't think we can. I think we can do the best that we can in the season that we're in and within the structures that currently exist, and then choosing again our relationship with those structures because the business world was built if you have a stay-at-home someone taking care of everything else.
Can I add 100% on that? And can I ask, did you ever consider going into another organization, or was that because this is a consideration other women are going to have
Yeah.
listening? Do I go out on my own? Do I
Yeah.
try something like? Can you share your?
Mm,
Yeah.
um, I I didn't, but I'll also say that that to me is pretty unique about my skill set. So I'd also say if you're thinking about going out on your own, there is a quantifiable skill set that you can also build internally as an entrepreneur within an organization that makes the transition into being on your own easier, which is I negotiated contracts and procurement. I developed business. I also then delivered the keynote or facilitated the workshop. So I had that skill set of the whole business cycle.
Yes.
And so if that's not something, it also, as someone who, I brought in $1 million worth of business per year
For
and
the
got used to
company.
that for the
Yeah.
company.
Yes.
And so I also got used to the sales cycle of there going to be slow times. There's going to be then after Labor Day, there's this crunch and rush in our industry of, oh, shoot, speakers and events and let's get the budget off the books. And so I knew the rhythm, and all of that helps you stomach what can feel like the volatility and uncertainty of solopreneurship.
Mm.
That's one. So, what are the constituent skills that you might need to build? I am still learning a ton about marketing and branding. That is my big learning curve, but that's okay, right? That's an awareness of what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and how do I build? And then
Yes.
the second is a big shift that I would again encourage anyone right now to start building, which is build a team. And by team, I don't mean other people around you on the org chart. I mean a group of people who are going to nudge you in the way that you want to go. So I'm imagining that Michele, if you're listening to this, Michele is part of your team because the conversations over and over, week by week, episode by episode, help you remember that you're not crazy. Help you remember that there are other women out there. Help you remember that you have a starring role in your own life.
You're
right? We
literally
need,
taking words from my solo cast from this week.
okay,
That
I'm
was the
so glad.
invitation. You've like, it's beautiful. You're
And I
bringing
haven't
tears
even
to my
listened
eyes.
to it.
I know you haven't. That's what I'm saying because it literally just aired. So this is incredible.
We
Yes,
need it.
this is what we need. I was
We
saying we need
need our,
community. We need
yeah.
the community. I said everyone's successful as like a mentor. They've got masterminds, they have people, they've got their groups of it's people in
Okay, let me
support of
push on
it.
that.
Yes,
Let me
please,
push on that
please.
because
Yes.
I, as the primary parent, caregiver, I'm like, I don't have time to go to a mastermind.
Yeah, no,
I
I don't
can't
either.
afford
That's why
to.
I'm just going to do Zoom calls with these
Yes,
women. I'm going to invite, I'm calling it gatherings. We need to
yes.
gather around possibility and with action, though, and
It's
accountability.
also who's in your feed, right?
Yeah.
Who are you reading? Who are you consuming? Are you
Mm,
reading the business gurus who say all you need to do is get up at 5 o'clock and run 3 miles and then have
right.
a
The 5 a.m.
protein
club.
shake,
Yeah.
right? Uh, everyone is influencing your thinking. The great irony for me is that I actually feel better connected, more supported now as a solopreneur than I did when I had a partnership.
Interesting.
And it's because there are people who are more values aligned, who are also building, who are naming these truths rather than covering them up so that we can all navigate it better together, even if we're doing it in our own corners of the world.
I
Right? I
love
feel
this.
such affiliation to other women who are building, who are sort of pushing back on the full-time, part-time distinction. There's no part-time parenting,
No.
right? Even if you have a custody arrangement, like we still care, we're still responsible. And so it is, to me, a question of how do I build a life? What are the different pieces that nurture the things that I care about, the things that I need, that I can do in this season?
Yes.
So taking on another full-time role within another organization wasn't right for me at the time.
Yeah.
My mother also said to me, well, you're really betting on this book. What if it doesn't go well? And I said, thanks, Mom, for the vote of confidence. But if it if it doesn't go well, I think I'll go get a real job. But it has, what does go well mean? It has
You get
more
to
than
decide.
provided for my family. I am living in
Mm,
alignment with my values. I am doing good work in the world. I get to play Uno and basketball with my kid after pickup. Like, what more could I
yes.
ask for? And I feel like life is long, as long as much as you described my career trajectory, I feel like there's so much more ahead of us. There's so much more ahead of us, and this season that can feel so constrained and so layered, and like we're carrying so much, things will shift. Things will shift. And we need to make sure that we are taking sufficiently good care of ourselves now, that there's still something left of us in the next season.
Absolutely. And I think everything you're talking about is a reminder and also how to do it. Just this idea of coming back to yourself. It keeps coming back throughout this entire conversation. Did you intentionally reach out to other women or men or
Mm,
people, like when you're talking about your community
mm.
that you forged?
No, I mean, really, LinkedIn has
Yeah.
been this lifeline.
How
And it is
beautiful.
literally who's in my feed, and some
Yeah,
of
literally
those
who's in your feed.
literally who's in my feed, and then some of those conversations evolve into a virtual coffee, and some of them evolve into a cross recommendation or a referral.
Beautiful.
Some of it is just like humor to get us through the day.
Yes, because you're fighting the same good fight in your own way.
Totally.
Um, we're coming close to the end, so I just wanted to ask a couple more questions because there's so many. Like every
Yeah.
time, the last time you came on, I'm like, this is there's so many ways to take it, and but I
Mm,
think it's we keep coming back to the same heart of what we're talking about. I mean, everything's in your book, and I always say like just go read Elaine's book, and
mm,
especially if you're in a workplace setting, or it goes beyond that. But since this is a focus, or it's going to be for today, but since this is about a woman living her starring role, if you were standing center stage, Elaine,
mm,
and you could invite women up with you,
mm,
what invitation would you offer the women listening today on how to use her voice in a way that's in resonance to live
mhm.
her most fulfilled life on her terms? I know it's sort of a big question, so I'll give you a moment, but whatever comes up.
Yeah. Let's start with what voice is. Voice isn't just the words that you say in a meeting. Voice is how you move through the world. The most powerful people I know didn't have big bullhorns. A lot of them were soft spoken. It is often less about what you say, even though words can be important, but what you do. So, what choices are you making day in, day out? And as micro as when you ask someone at work, how are you doing? Is it perfunctory or do you genuinely mean it? Right? Are you listening in or is it just let's do the small talk so we can get to the real agenda item? That makes a difference in honoring someone else's humanity.
Yes.
It makes a difference in what culture you're building in your interactions and on your team. I don't think any of us can change the world, certainly not single-handedly, but we all have the power to shape someone's world, shape our own world, shape the world of the people who interact with us. And so let's do that because voice is how you move through the world.
Mm.
I would couple that with don't be afraid to let your light shine. And if other people can't see your light, it's not typically about you, right? It's about whether that environment is going to be willing to recognize that as light rather than threat, as light rather than competition. And so sometimes that context change helps you see your light more clearly. And if you ever need someone to affirm the light in you, tune into Michele, follow me on social, right? We are here in our own corners of the world trying to offer the light, the gifts within us because we know that we each have something to offer. And none of us have to do it all, but we all can do something.
It's so beautiful. And we don't have to do it alone. And
We
that's
don't.
why I want to direct them. Where can they find you online? Because you
Mhm.
have such a special light about you. And I just love
Thank
being
you.
with you, Elaine. It's just so it's such always such a rich conversation and one that leaves me thinking more. And that's how when we have the awareness is how we make the change and how we gain more agency and make choices that
Yeah.
feel more in alignment, which is really what leads to that more fulfilled life. So
Yeah.
thank you for everything. But I do want to direct the women to your book it sounds like LinkedIn is that your favorite place to hang out?
It's, oh, this is a whole other conversation. I hang out a lot on LinkedIn. I
Yes.
am a recent entry to Substack.
Oh,
I am
nice. Oh, good.
renegotiating my relationship with Instagram. So I am Elaine Lin Hering on all the socials. And if you are thinking, no, but Elaine, what do I really say tactically to speak my mind? I also have a free webinar on my website. Spend 40 minutes with me there, unpacking, and again, more tactical phrases because the reality of what do I say in that room still matters as
Yeah.
much as it is about how are you going to move through the world. So let's do both together.
Yes, let's do it together. I've loved this conversation. Ladies, check out your podcast player. All the links will be there. Send me the link to that article because it
I
sounds
will.
interesting. I will link your book, all your social, and the webinar.
Let's do it.
I'm going to check that out myself. Thanks for being here today, Elaine. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.